In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at the Paasche Talon with a white Cerakote coating. I'll be doing a spray test as well as an unboxing. Let's take a look at it right now. So you can see the box, nice and white, very, very clean design. Let's have a look at what's inside the box. Now, I haven't used a Paasche for many, many years. So when I started airbrushing back in '97, I actually learnt how to airbrush using a Paasche VL. So this particular model here, you can see this instruction manual. You've got the exploded diagram, some accessories, and just a whole heap of troubleshooting as well, which is handy. In the kit, we have a few different things. We have the TA1 air cap. We have a number 3 fluid nozzle and head nozzle, and we have the Awada to Paasche adapter. This is nice and handy, so if you've got an existing Awada hose, then you just screw your Paasche onto the bottom of this, and then this 1/8 will fit onto your Awada hose. I'll probably end up using that instead of using the included hose for the purpose of this video. A little airbrush holder, tool kit, as well as Allen key, braided airline with the regular 1/4 inch, so that you can hook up to your compressor, and the Paasche fitting on this end. And you also get some spare needles included, which is handy. So these will obviously fit to the number 1 and number 3. So you can see this has a little notch, 1 notch on the back. So I'm assuming that's identifying that this is the number 1 needle. And you can see here you've got the 3 notches on the back identifying that yes, I was correct. This is the number 3 needle, the other one was the number 1, and you can see that's a bit thicker. Now, when I used to use my VL, I used to always run the number 3 needle. It seemed to be a just great all-round needle where you could get quick broad spray as well as fine detail. But for the purpose of today's video, I'm just going to run with what's fitted in the airbrush already. And here we have the airbrush, very cool with that eagle design on the cup. And you can see this is that Cerakote coating. Definitely a cool looking brush. Nice feel to the trigger. Aluminium handle with that goldy orange tinge. The lid just pops off. Again, aluminium, nice lightweight. Okay, so upon checking out the instruction manual, there are a few other options for the Talon. So you can get additional fluid nozzles and needles. So there's a 0.2 mil head, which is a 0, and that's for jobs requiring extremely fine detail when using very thin paint. There's a 0.25 mil head, which is the number 1, which is what I showed you earlier. That comes included in this kit, and that's great for jobs requiring fine detail, thin paints. Then there's a 0.38 mil head, and that's your number 2, and that is actually installed on the airbrush, and that's good for most spraying, so that's the one I'm going to be demonstrating. Then there's the 0.66 mil head, that's your number 3, the other needle that I showed you and that comes in the kit, and that's great for spraying metallics or thicker paints. And then there's the 0.66 fan air cap, and that'll give you a 2.5 to 3 inch fan pattern used with size 3 tip and needle. And then there's a 1 mil head, and that's great for spraying larger metallics, thick paints or high volume. So you get in the kit the 1, the 2 and the 3, the 0 and the fan air cap and the head are all additional. So unscrewing the needle cap, you can see that needle is nice and fine, and this has like a all-in-one head assembly, so that just unscrews, and there's your fluid nozzle. So then you can obviously remove that and do any maintenance that you need. I'm just going to retract that needle before I put that head assembly back on, because I don't want to risk damaging it. And everything can just be screwed on finger tight. You don't need to use a pair of multi-grips or anything. Make sure that needle's pushed all the way forward, and always remember to adjust. This here will adjust your trigger tension, meaning how heavy you want your trigger to be. I like to wind it out a bit so it's a bit of a looser throw. There's a spring in there that compresses, hence why when you wind it in it goes tighter, and if you wind it out it's a looser performance. So what I like to do with the cutaway handles is I always have them to the side like this, so that when I'm airbrushing, this part doesn't catch on my skin, because I have had this catch on my skin, and that's put the airbrush into single action mode and virtually ruined the painting that I was working on. So I always tend to just have them like that, and then you don't have to worry about it. So there's an adjuster on the back here which you can wind in to stop that trigger from moving all the way back. so you can set the amount of paint that you wish to have. Because this is a double action airbrush and I prefer to just use the trigger, I always make sure that's wound all the way out. And this coating seems very, very durable. It's a nice looking airbrush because of it, something different, and it'll easily stand out from your collection. Let's go ahead and put some paint in the airbrush and see how it sprays. Now, because I already have a wider air hoses lined up, I'm not going to use the one that comes with the kit, but I am going to use this adapter, so that way I can just run my wider hose and hook up the Paasche Talon. So this part will screw onto the Paasche, and then my wider hose will just screw on like so. Again, just finger tight. Okay, so I'm going to be using some indigo blue. This is Trident water-based paint. I've already pre-thinned this, so this is at a 70-30% ratio, meaning 70% reducer, 30% paint. So nice and fine, so that way I can see how this number 2 needle performs. So press down for air, pull back for paint. So nice and smooth. Shouldn't get a lot of tip drying at this ratio. The trigger feels really nice. One thing that I am noticing is the weight and the balance of the brush. It definitely feels heavier towards the front with that larger cup, and the other reason is that it's got this aluminium handle, so that is a lot lighter than a traditional handle on most airbrushes, so that way you do feel like it's got a bit more of that sort of weight all focused towards the front of the brush. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, it's just whatever you get used to. Now that test was done with the needle cap on, so I'm going to now remove that and see if it sprays without it. I remember the old VL, you used to have to get a paint picker cap, but the way this is shaped, I'm assuming that you'll be able to paint without the needle cap on and without the need to buy another air cap or needle cap. And as you can see, it is allowing me to paint, and it's much better. I much prefer it. I can see what I'm doing, and I'm able to go nice and fine with that mixing ratio. So I'm at 20 psi now. I'm not finding that any different really. Oh, it's starting to perform a bit better. But I think you can get away with the 30. But as you can see, this brush can definitely perform at fine detail. You can see easily blends nicely. Just using the airbrush to sketch, and then up close for a bit more detail. And I mean, usually I'd use white, but I'm just going to use the chalk pencil. Bang some highlights in here. There you have it. Quick, easy little eye just as a demo. So from the basic spray tests to these fine lines and my quick little fantasy eye demonstration, you can see that the Paasche Talon can pretty much handle all of your airbrushing needs and is a great brush for any airbrush collection.